So Carissa is a plant medicine practitioner here in Saskatoon.
Yeah.
We know a little bit about how I introduced you. Tell us a little bit about why you do what you do and why it's important.
Yeah. So personal experience. I had physical health back in 2019 that just, took a hit of severity and I couldn't function anymore. My mental health was breaking. I ended up in the hospital. I was on so many opioids and
Mm-hmm.
chemical combination. I didn't know what to do. And it was either try something else or end it. And so I started with actually my very first experience was NN-DMT
What is that?
and dimethyltryptamine, and it is
Isn't that the, and maybe I'm wrong here, I'm just going on what I think I know. Isn't that the drug that gets released or the chemical that gets released in your mind when you're
about to
dying?
die. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I
That's
did
something.
that, and I was scared, and I just said like, show me.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me back to a trauma I experienced when I was 13 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that it was true because of what I had remembered,
Mm-hmm.
and then things that I had forgot came through.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came out of the trip, my relationship to that trauma had completely shifted.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, I want, I need more. I want to do more of this. What is this?
Were you
Right?
worried? Because I mean, you have a bit of a history with substance use, correct?
Absolutely.
So when you
Yeah.
came out of that and the first thought you had was more, were you like, should I be worried about this?
Yeah. Not at that point.
Uh-huh.
I was later.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll
Yeah.
get into that after. But so it was, yeah, some of the pain started to decrease and my life started to change. I was handling situations differently. Um, Even the way that I looked at myself in the mirror. I
Mm-hmm.
remember, and I went from NNDMT to mushrooms to ketamine, MDMA, LSD. I tried it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I would have been more responsible at the time
Yeah.
because I was being hit with so much childhood trauma, adult trauma.
Now, with what we know now about integration, and I know very little of
Yeah,
integration, the word integration in this capacity just entered my life when I started doing this, like since last Tuesday, really.
yeah.
So was there any of that, like when you were first experimenting with these things? Like, did you work with someone?
Uh, not purposefully. It wasn't strategically done.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, and actually even the therapist that I was with at the time didn't even really know what they were unpacking with me and why until later on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so things just started to change and I got my life back.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there
You
was
got your
still,
life back, or
yeah,
you got a new life?
got a new life, I guess.
Okay.
Or, um, yeah, just a better
Mm-hmm.
life, a better way of being.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely a better way of being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with what I just experienced, um, most of my and I'm still integrating, so maybe this might change. Tomorrow might be a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But as of right now, like when I was inside, of course, I saw the beautiful colors and all of the things, but the lens that I'd been looking at my life and the people in my life, the lens that I've been looking through all of that through was
Hmm.
removed,
Yeah.
and that's what I was hoping for. So I didn't know what to expect, but I'm like, the lens that I'm looking at life through is built, it's been ground in the past and it's been ground by trauma. So I'm seeing everything through my lens that's hurting.
Hmm.
And when I got inside, that lens went away. And the people that I saw, it wasn't the people. Like it was just some sort of energy, like, oh, Donna's here now, but I didn't see
Yeah.
Donna's face.
Yeah.
So, and I was able to mourn the traumatic things, the things that I'd lost in my life and the things that had happened to me and to those I love. I was able to mourn them in a way that was sort of outside of what I knew. And it's just
Hmm.
it's taken a layer off for me, and it was so beautiful.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It takes a layer off.
Yeah.
And as you continue to work with the medicine or
Mhm.
any type of medicine and
Mhm.
that integration,
Mhm.
because the integration itself is medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And those
Yeah.
layers just keep on peeling. And
Yeah, and even in the days since, like I'm like I'll remember something or something that I'm like, man, why did I say that? Because I remember some of the things that I said, right? Like I said certain things, and I'm like, instead of thinking about one person, I said they, like they took this, like who's they,
mm,
you know?
yeah.
So, but the practitioner that I worked with, beautiful soul, I will say, and I don't have anything to compare her practice to,
Mm-hmm.
but it was absolutely every single thing that I was hoping it would be.
Yeah.
With all of the beautiful incense and with the prayers and the crystals, and it was just, man, it was something else.
Mm,
So, have
yeah.
you experienced a journey in that sort of setting?
Yes and no. Not to that kind of extent,
Mm-hmm.
but I did try different ways
Mm-hmm.
of having ceremonies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, being in what I thought was a traditional ceremony and um untraditional, and then just going in and putting on the blindfolds and hiding under the covers.
Yeah. Would you advise that now, looking back?
You know what? Honestly, if you have somebody with you,
Yeah.
like by yourself,
Yeah.
no. And that's the irresponsible part of myself.
Yeah.
Like the practice that I had back then is a lot of it was on my own or
Mm-hmm.
with my partner at the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And that created a whole other set of issues, right? Because then you've got that trauma bonding. That person
Mm-hmm.
knows your secrets and they're handling what you're exposing differently. And then that can have an impact on you. So having somebody that isn't even in relation to you, intimately, family, anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
definitely helps a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, back in the day, I did mushrooms,
Yeah.
and let me tell you, if I would have experienced what I experienced this last Tuesday at a festival, I would have called that a bad trip all day long.
Yeah.
That was, but I went in with intention this time. Before it was escapism. Like I need to feel something different.
Yeah.
I want to see some pretty lights. I want to laugh at weird things. I want to see mustaches in trees, whatever, and
Yeah.
and that was my intention back then. And the medicine provided.
Yeah. Well, I
So,
think too, you sound so like you were very open to this experience beforehand. You wanted it
mhm.
and you were
And
prepared for the good, the bad, the ugly, the anything.
I was, and
Yeah.
and when I was in it, like I'll tell you, like there was a time, and I believe the practitioner said, she's like, I sensed the dragon, and she took a blanket, and like you said, under the blanket, right? She had a very beautiful blanket, by the way, and she
Yeah.
put it over me, and like I just had the most amazing release of all of the things. Like I've been waiting, in the first couple of years of my healing into recovery, I was waiting for this release. Like, when am I going to
Mm.
get it? When am I going to get that cry, that scream at God, crying, all the things? I was given that.
Yeah.
And like there was no judgment in that space. Like there was, like, let's be real, there was snot and tears, and it was just, it was like, it was really powerful, right?
Yeah.
And it just like, after all of that, I was still inside, I'm like, I'm really glad that I'm strong enough to be here today. you know um there was no fear. There was no, I can't handle this, when those powerful emotions were being revealed to me. It was just like, it was beautiful. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I can explain it any better than that.
Yeah.
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 So what do you, as a practitioner, how do you work with people with plant medicine, correct?
Yeah. My work though is strictly around Kambo.
Okay.
But also, that's it's in the plant medicine family.
Mm-hmm.
It's non-psychoactive.
Mm-hmm. Like, tell us, what is Kambo about?
Yeah, Kambo is a secretion from an Amazonian tree frog.
Now, before we go in, now
Yeah.
today's episode is sponsored by New Earth Therapy, right? And that is
Yes.
the clinic that you work at, right?
Yes.
So thank
Yeah.
you. Whoever's watching from New Earth Therapy, thank you so much for working with us. Thank you so much for the support
Hi,
and help.
everyone.
Yeah. So when we're
Yeah.
talking about your practice, like your professional practice, we're talking about New Earth Therapy, just so that everybody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, on that note, the other practitioners that we
Mm-hmm.
have, they do some work with mushrooms, some work with ketamine, but it goes through an approval process.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then all of them will work with somebody for integration.
So there is an approval process
Yeah,
through the Health Canada, I assume, so that you
yeah,
can legally work with psilocybin
yeah,
with other people.
yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Has
So
it?
just hopefully it just keeps growing and growing,
Yeah.
and
It
it
must be.
becomes more and more accessible because right now it's not.
It must be a road fraught with barriers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And I think, now in the meantime, while there are so many barriers, that's why it's so important to have like us existing practitioners
Mm-hmm.
who understand, can support, offer that safe space
Mm-hmm.
to unpack these sessions, but
Mm-hmm.
even to help people prepare
Mm-hmm.
for what they're going in for
Yeah.
and why.
Yeah.
And, we can't be there for that session, but we
What
can
do you
be there
mean?
after. So, like, while they're taking the medicine,
So the
right?
practitioner cannot be with them while they're
No,
taking it.
no, not at this time. If
How
it
interesting that
if
is.
it's approved by Health Canada,
Yeah.
it's a different, yeah, that's for definitely a different different show. We can
Yeah.
go into that a lot more depth.
Well, that just
Um,
seems very interesting to me because I
yeah,
mean, we were just talking about the importance of working with a practitioner, and
yeah,
God help me if I didn't have one on Tuesday there.
yeah,
Like, I probably would have made a scene,
yeah,
like there was other people, like we had this space, right?
yeah,
But outside of that space, there was other people,
yeah.
and there were times where I was like getting very concerned about, oh, did anyone see or hear or whatever, and
Hmm.
they were unwarranted, like my
Yeah.
concerns. I've come now that I'm back on this plane. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's interesting that that part of that process, the practitioner cannot be present. What is recommended then?
Um,
Like, do it with a loved one, do it with someone you
somebody very
trust.
safe. Yeah.
Okay.
Someone very safe, but always with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, you're seeing into things that whether it's other entities or
Mm-hmm.
shapes, colors, feelings, stories, traumas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the journeys are long.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you don't know how you're going to handle that because you're in an altered state of consciousness.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you do have somebody present,
Mm-hmm.
just to ensure that safety,
Mm-hmm.
that's huge. That's vital. Um, but on top of that is then going from that to unpacking that and the integration. And, for myself, I'm still integrating,
Mm-hmm.
trips that I had in 2019, 2020.
Journeys.
Yeah, journeys. Sorry. I
We're
always
doing
think,
our best here. We're doing our best. We're all just trying to get through the day.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
So, but yeah, it's definitely I'm still integrating
mm-hmm.
things that I saw and experienced and
Mm-hmm.
talking about it and how that applies to my life now, the changes in my body and my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the it's just heightened that awareness of bringing that support and safety to other people and
Mm-hmm.
educating them on safe preparation and safe integration afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you feel great and life has changed and you're like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need any more. I don't need therapy. I'm feeling great.
Oh, I'm the worst at that. I am
Yeah.
the worst. I will start doing something and I will start to feel better, and then I'll be like, nah, I don't need that anymore.
Yeah. And then do you fall
Yeah.
into self-sabotage,
Yeah.
right? Because you feel so great.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait a minute. Something's supposed to go wrong. I'm not used to living this good. And then
Mm-hmm.
you start,
Looking for problems.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I have a meme that often gets a lot of laughs, but it's quite serious. If I don't have any, and it goes, if I don't have any problems, I like to wander off into the future till I find some.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how does somebody like with in my situation, I had known this person for a while,
Okay.
right? And she follows along, and sometimes she participates in the comments and whatever. So
Mhm.
she knows me, and when I approached her like a couple weeks ago, I'm like, you know what, like I I'm missing something. Like something is above what I can see right now, and I need a little help to get there.
Mhm.
And we started talking about it, and she's like, I'd be happy to sit with you, you
Yeah.
know. So what? But like in more of a clinical setting, such as you work in, what would be some of the precursors that you would look for to decide whether this is a good excuse me, whether this is a good therapy for someone or not?
Yeah. Um, hmm. Okay. How can I touch on
Well, Donna's
that?
actually chiming in here. We'll let you stew on that for a
Yeah.
minute. We'll look at some comments. Donna's chiming
Yeah.
in, and Donna knows how important it is for grammar and spelling in comments because it trips me up, and she's fraught with them this morning. Donna, I love you. Donna says. Donna says, "Thank you, New Earth. Thank you, Carissa, for being in the studio today and being such a rad human."
Thanks, Donna.
So, and Donna, I know that she started the process with New Earth some time ago with some forms and stuff, and she touched on they're very careful about selection. There's forms, there's review processes and things like
Yeah.
that. I just like the reason I ask is like I'm curious how someone who might be interested in this but isn't quite ready to come and make the phone call yet. Like, what are some things that
Mm.
maybe they can like, yeah, I'm like that. Maybe this is a good idea for me, or
Yeah.
maybe it's not.
I think it's to keep in mind that, you know, we are the medicine.
How do you mean?
You are the medicine. You
Okay.
are the actual substance,
Hmm.
okay, of existence.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether it be mushrooms, whether it be ketamine, whether it be Kambo, those are tools.
Mm-hmm.
So starting with just, investigating within as to why you want to go down this path.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you get there without even needing, that tool,
Mm-hmm.
right? You've gotten there. And then other times you do. And then so you can go through like a referral process, for certain things like the ketamine and the mushrooms um, through that. With Kambo, it's a lot different. And that's kind of what you were talking about with Donna and the intake form, where I'm very, very, very thorough because there are contraindications. There's
Mm.
some people with certain mental health challenges and physical health challenges
Mm-hmm.
that prevent them from that medicine.
Well, and when I was speaking to my practitioner, just asking questions, trying to learn, and she said that there's been circumstances where people weren't honest on the intake forms,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
they had experiences or were on medications or substances or whatever, and the results were less than favorable.
Yeah.
So um, it's it's a tricky thing,
Yeah.
because it can definitely send you into a darker place. Now, I'm not saying that from personal experience, but I
Mm-hmm.
can see how it could,
Yeah.
and cause more harm than good.
Yeah.
So, have you seen harms come from people like, having bad experiences?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally,
Mm.
I've had it,
Mm-hmm.
but also because I wasn't set up with somebody that understood plant medicine,
Mm.
and excuse me, some of the stories that would go on and ruminate in my mind where it was like, why am I just had this session, I've had one before, why is this coming up, why am I thinking about this, I should be over this by now. And then almost I would say like obsessive intrusive thoughts
Mm.
that I can't break free from
Yes.
that, and very debilitating.
Mm-hmm.
um that's when I would also notice some of the physical health symptoms coming back. So I'd get
Okay.
back pain again. I'd feel tremorish. And then I would know, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we need to go in and we need to do this right. Um, and so I started amping up the therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But then I kind of hit a plateau. Like I felt like in some ways I was good.
Mm-hmm.
There was still something, it was still something that I was reaching for.
Mm-hmm.
And or I thought I had gotten over it and here it's resurfacing and I'm upset about it again, or I'm anxious, nervous,
Yeah.
you know. Um, so that's when I started working with Kambo more.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Like with yourself
y-
working with Kambo?
yeah, well,
Okay.
with a practitioner,
Right.
and then going into training
Okay.
and just diving deeper in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it really kicked my butt, and it put me in place, and it was like, stop chasing.
Yeah.
Stop thinking that you got to figure everything out and heal every little bit of part of you and letting all this stuff go.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that all the time. It's
Mm-hmm.
also about just being able to sit and hold it and exist with everything that you've experienced in life, and
Mm-hmm.
that the chase can end. You can
Yeah.
just stop. And so, um, I've had mushrooms in my room for for a year,
Uh-huh.
and I haven't touched them.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need to go in for me right now to go in and have another trip.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yet I've experienced some things in this last year of my life that have been extremely um
Challenging.
challenging and hard on my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken me to places of remembering from the past, and at one point I thought maybe I should step into a trip and sort this out and just, I don't know, see what'll come of it afterwards.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be better afterwards, or
More aware.
yeah, more aware.
Yeah.
And within figuring that out and talking with myself, I realized I didn't need to. That I was
Mm.
holding it right then and there. I was holding both the joys of life, but also the pains. And that,
Would 3 years ago
no,
you'd have been like, um.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I would have jumped right on in.
Yeah.
And so I would definitely say that maybe psychedelics and Kambo and the therapy really helped me in this moment right now, being
Mm-hmm.
able to, because I unlearned and relearned.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I was holding this entire situation and challenge in my life
Yeah.
with a lot more ease, better
Yeah.
than I actually realized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few minutes ago, you mentioned intrusive thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and that was what led me to this experience,
Okay.
was these intrusive thoughts, because I mean we've all had hard times,
Mm-hmm.
and but there's some times in my life that were very dark and challenging, and some really bad things happened. And
Mm-hmm.
6 years into my recovery, I went to the rooms, I went to the meetings, I went to the church basements. I had the sponsor, I did the steps, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot from all of that, and I still go to meetings and stuff like that. I'm not here to compare one to the other,
Yeah.
but I couldn't I couldn't let it go. I would have
Mm-hmm.
these thoughts, and then I would get angry at people involved in those thoughts and whatever, and it would wreck my day. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it would wreck my week. And there were a couple of times where it wrecked a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went into this, that was sort of my intention. It was like, I want these intrusive thoughts to stop. And I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like expecting the medicine to, like, okay, they're done now and they're gone. But it changed my relationship. And you mentioned earlier too, it changed, your relationship with your trauma changed.
Yeah.
So tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that. Like, what do you mean when you say my relationship with trauma changed?
I was just able to, just like you, see it through a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
It was how how did this situation help me in other areas?
Mm-hmm.
Those traumas that I went through that I thought were gonna kill me and almost did, helped me to hold this past year
Mm-hmm.
and get through this with grace, and you know um, and not break me.
Mm. Cool.
So I would say yeah,
Hmm.
that's what it was.
Let's take a break.
Yeah.
Let's hear a couple words from the School of Public Health at the School of University U of S. Let's hear from them. The School of Public Health at the University of Saskatchewan is now offering a graduate certificate in substance use health and well-being. This is a one-year program that is open to professionals who wish to deepen their overall understanding of substance use. You do not need a prior degree for admittance. On completion of this program, you will take away a developed health intervention to reduce the harms of substance use as they relate to your vocation. To learn more about this program and the application process, go to the link in the show notes. And we're back. tell us a little bit about how New Earth got started. You know, such a crazy thing. You know, like, you know, I can sit here and tell my story. Like, look at around us here. Like, this is in Saskatoon. A podcast does, like, this is crazy. So,
Yeah.
and when I think of organizations like New Earth, like that's like kind of that same level of like crazy idea that actually came to fruition.
Yeah. Um, that's definitely a story for Sarah Binsfield, who
Okay,
is the owner and creator of New Earth
Sarah,
Therapy.
if you're watching, I'm coming.
She is an absolute beautiful soul.
Hmm.
Her vision in this creation and just being there to support people and help educate them and to offer that safe space of navigating through, these non-ordinary states of consciousness
Hmm.
and life experiences. She has built this beautiful home where people can come to and meet up with different practitioners
Hmm.
and herself. But yeah, I would definitely talk to her about her story one of these days. It's well
Hmm.
worth it. I can share how I became a part of the
Please.
New Earth family,
Yeah.
and I had been watching and admiring them like for a while, for about a year.
Hmm.
And I had just finished my Kambo training in California, and I didn't want to hold this practice myself. I
Mm.
wanted to ensure safety for people. I wanted to make sure that it was literally in an arm's reach, that if someone's going in and doing the deep work, that I'm educated
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
qualified, but there's also things that exceed my qualifications,
Hmm.
and that I'm not going to be able to help every single person.
Hmm.
And so being with a team of, a whole network of support that offer, each practitioner offers
Hmm.
different therapies and has, a little specialty. Um, that was a dream for me, to
Hmm.
be able to give Kambo a home with other people. And so I'd sent her a
Amongst.
message.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, I didn't hear back for months. And so I
Hmm.
just kept the dream and alive in my mind. And I thought, no, one day, and if it's not with them, it's gonna be
Hmm.
with someone else.
Hmm.
And then right when I was thinking about that, I had a message in my inbox, and I still have that message to this day.
Hmm.
And yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Hmm.
I have seen so many different people that I've worked with that have been able to connect with some of the other therapists, and it's been
Hmm.
it's been
We've got
really
a
nice.
we've got a question here coming up. It's a good one too. So I like where are we here? Christina. Christina, thank you for the comment. Christina says, I don't have interest in this process for myself, but I'm curious if someone who is in recovery, is there a length of sobriety time required before said person pursues this kind of therapy?
Hmm. I
I
would say that's very individual
I
based. Like we just can't.
I mean,
Yeah,
okay. For example, and
yeah.
maybe there isn't a clear answer to this, and I'm sorry, but I'm 6.5 years into my sobriety, and I'd thought about it earlier on, but I very much, especially earlier on, I very much had the mentality that abstinence is the only way, and that include medicines
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't consider them medicines at that time,
Yeah.
right? This was something that I would do with my friends and go wild for a while, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I lumped that in with that. And when I first did start considering maybe this is a good path for me, I sat with that thought for a couple of years, you know?
Yeah.
And it was already after I started Hard Knocks Talks that, and I started having these conversations with other people that I'm like, well, maybe, you know, and there was offers, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we're having ceremony or come do this or come do that, and it wasn't like that, but it was like, you know, if you feel like you're being called, then let us know.
Mm-hmm.
And and it was apprehension still, like, you know, am I going to be able to do this one time? Is this gonna, you know, is this gonna fire the addiction up again?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
finally, you know, one day, a couple of weeks ago, it just felt right. It's like, you know what? I have no desire to be high. I have no desire to go and see funny things and see the light show. That's not, I
Mhm.
want to heal and I'm not, you know, so um, that's how long it took me. And some people will never, and some people don't need to. Lots
Mhm.
of people don't need this, you know, but I
Yeah.
certainly did. And I'm glad I waited as long as I did. I have no regrets of not doing this sooner. So
Mhm.
what was your experience?
Um, I would just honestly, I mean, Christina, I would just advise that you have that support person, that therapist,
Yes.
your caseworker, somebody that's following, that has followed you up into the point, or somebody else up into that point of wanting to go in and make this kind of decision, or
Mm-hmm.
even just, laying out those thoughts on the table
Mm-hmm.
and having that person with you afterwards so that you can stay accountable. Because I was that person
Mm-hmm.
where at one point it did hit me and I did fall back into that addiction, being dependent on it, thinking like, I can't ever stop this, because then who am I going to be then?
Yes.
I
Mm-hmm.
keep getting better. I don't want to go backwards. And when I would go backwards, or I would come into, a life crisis, I'd be like, well, I need another trip. If you're needing it, it's not right for you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to need it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And, and and maybe it's not necessarily, it's how you need it.
yeah, how you need it.
You know, like
Better way of putting
if
it. Yeah.
if 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 you're looking to just escape for a few hours, you know,
Yeah.
perhaps this is not the route you want to take.
Yeah,
And I'm not
absolutely.
giving medical advice right now, by the way. Just so we're clear, this is my own opinion on these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see here. We had a comment from Twinkle. Twinkle, good to see you this morning. Twinkle says some people might consider this to be breaking sober time be- because it's, well, this is therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll admit, when I was in it on Tuesday, when I started coming back from it into the real world, I started having those thoughts like, oh, did I just relapse? I just relapsed. And I started like, that took me back to a,
Yeah.
it sort of left me with a preview of what may come in the future,
Mm-hmm.
Tune in next week for the next level of Dan's trauma.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, so what else? Uh, Tell us where you'd like to go with this, like with your Kambo practice and all of the things. Would you like to become a psilocybin practitioner?
Um, you know, that's a tough question. It's something that I've always been, you know, tossing around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me personally, now throughout all of this time and all of my experiences, but also working with other people,
Mm-hmm.
is that um, there's more in this active state of consciousness instead of the altered state of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like about Kambo, is there is no altered state of consciousness. So you're present, and it is that connectedness back to self.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. And I think for me, it's holding that space
Mm-hmm.
and continuing the work with that. And just offering a space for people to come and gain clarity
Mm-hmm.
and continue on with that integration.
So let's jump into that
Hmm.
a little bit deeper then, as far as Kambo.
Yeah.
Now we talked a little bit about what Kambo is, but it's sort of grouped into the plant medicine genre.
Yeah.
And but it's not psychoactive.
No.
So what is it? Like what do you get out of a Kambo session?
I would say connectedness back to self.
Okay.
It's um and from response back from clients, but also my own experience. So when I was doing like the DMT and mushrooms and whatnot, I was coming home afterwards. Like I did feel a little bit more back in my body after, but this I was in my body the whole time. And for me, I had like such a abandonment of self.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this brought me back home. Like I never felt human. I always felt invisible, and
Mm-hmm.
that was my goal. The more
Mm-hmm.
invisible I'm going to be, the better,
Mm-hmm.
the more I've succeeded in life. And I could feel like my skin and the fibers of my hair, and I could feel my heart beating and my intestines moving and shifting. And I could,
And this is on Kambo.
yeah, and
Okay.
I could feel inside of my body where I was still holding on to some of these stories that I was
Mm.
so attached to, that I wanted to get rid of, but I also didn't want to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
And then it brought me to a place of comfort. So I went from, a lot of discomfort during the actual Kambo experience to afterwards being in this state of bliss and loving myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always into practices of self-harm prior
Mm.
to that.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am, holding myself wrapped up in a blanket. I've got a heating pad. I'm eating soup and just feeling the love and feeling like, wait, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't need to go to another realm to find out if I'm okay. I'm existing right here,
Mm.
in the now.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be both not okay and okay at the same time. Right? Woo!
So have you done other medicines since Kambo?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Was it different?
have, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think too, because, I was going in with more intention,
Mm-hmm.
where I was going in with intention previous to,
Mm-hmm.
but also when I became so irresponsible with it, it was just like let's just, you know, I want to get somewhere. I want to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to escape
Mm-hmm.
some of that. And so I thought, I hadn't done it in a while. This is about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a little microdose.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought a little microdose is going to be safe. I was, on a journey for 5 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, here's a question that I have, and I've never asked it. How big is the microdose? Because
Microdose is usually, what is it, like 125 milligrams.
okay,
So very, very, very low, very light.
okay, and a
Um,
gram is 1,000 milligrams, correct?
yes. Yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna do math.
I can't-
Surprise!
Pause.
Yeah,
Let's take
yeah,
5.
yeah. My old weed dealer head here can figure that out.
Yeah. All
So
right.
that is because like when I took the medicine, I did 3.5 grams
Okay.
just this past Tuesday.
Yeah.
And if you're a cop right now, you can come arrest me because I'm gonna do it again someday. So, but yeah, and back in the day, I would have been scared to take that much, because I have a low tolerance for most substances.
Hmm.
And I would take like maybe, you eat a chocolate that had a gram in it or something like that, or you eat 2 of those and like, oh, but this was like, okay, I trust this person,
Hmm.
and we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was wonderful. But I have been curious about that for a long time. Like, what is a microdose, and what does a typical microdose regimen, like, what does it look like? Like, can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, no, that varies.
Uh-huh.
And then I also don't want to like give out the wrong information
Right,
for
right.
somebody. And the reason why is because when I did take that microdose
Mm-hmm.
and thinking, this is going to be fine,
It
and I was
was.
home,
It wasn't fine.
right? And
It,
it wasn't. I mean,
yeah,
it was and it wasn't.
yeah,
I had
yeah.
a lot to process in that 5 hours.
Uh-huh.
I was like,
Yeah, like thank goodness
it-
you weren't like, like watching the kids or something like that,
exactly. I was
Yeah.
seeing into my death, like what I needed to
Oh,
plan
wow.
for. Those feelings were coming. How are my kids going to be when I die? This is what I still need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that in a microdose, being
Mm-hmm.
home, nobody around, it was very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I needed to unpack that for quite some time
Mm.
afterwards. And then that really brought forth to me just how important it is. Even people that are microdosing
Mm-hmm.
have a therapist, that you feel comfortable with, that you can integrate
Mm-hmm.
this. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you could be feeling totally fine, and you know, you're not seeing any little colors, and you're not feeling the body sensation,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still doing something.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're feeling right, maybe you're feeling, you know, not right, it
Mm-hmm.
needs to be talked about. That support always needs to be there, because you just never know.
Yeah.
And no matter how experienced you are, it can, yeah, it can catch you off guard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So and I know we already touched a little bit on integration,
yeah.
but let's touch on that a little bit more. You know,
Okay.
say for whatever reason somebody chooses to do this on their own or whatever, and maybe they have some success with it. For, you know, we're not here to judge anyone for how
Mm-hmm.
they work through their things. What are some things that you typically would suggest for integration, like journaling, like what are some things that have helped you? Let's go there.
Yeah. Talking it out,
Yeah.
getting it out of the inside and to the outside, whether that be in paper, um, even bringing a journal into your therapist
Mm-hmm.
and sharing those writings, because you know they're understanding, they've been with you, they know what you're, you know, what you're going through, and they can kind of help you form different perspectives on that experience. So instead of me going in with my therapist and thinking, okay, I've got to prepare, I'm gonna die, that's what the mushroom showed me, it
Mm.
was like, you know, I could unpack it a little bit differently
Mm-hmm.
with a lot more support, and also them helping bring me back to center.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that stepping out into nature, and um, yeah, lots and lots of self-care,
Yeah.
but definitely wholeheartedly
Mm-hmm.
talk therapy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? How can they find New Earth?
You can find us at newertherapy.ca.
Mm-hmm.
We also just moved into the really cool old train station on Idlewild.
No way.
Yeah, so we
That's
have the
cool.
whole upper
And you're right
level.
by the spaghetti factory
Yeah.
too. That
So
might be
you
the best
can,
part. You guys
yeah,
could like work together. No, you don't.
can see one of our therapists for integration, and they'll go get spaghetti and
Yeah.
watch the trains go by.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Load up on them carbs.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, 305 Idlewild North. We're unit number 4.
Mm.
We are on social media. We're on Instagram. Sarah's really great at posting new things, keeping everybody informed of like upcoming events and things that our therapists are working on.
Mhm.
We're on Facebook. Oh, okay. Before I forget, we have a psychedelic integration circle. So
Really?
the first Tuesday,
Oh,
yeah, I'm so glad I didn't like forget about
is it
this.
like
And
is it like a peer support thing?
yes, absolutely.
Is there a
And
cost?
it's $20.
Okay.
Okay, $20 registration. You can
$20 a session?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you have 2 practitioners.
Let's put a timestamp on this. At this
Okay.
time,
Yes.
these are the current situ- whatever.
Offerings?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, the first Tuesday of every month. So we have one coming up. I believe it's August 1st.
Okay.
Is that the first Tuesday? $20. You have 2 practitioners there. We do offer that support, the safe space of, if you want to share, if you don't want to share, and you
Mhm.
just want to come and learn, and
Mhm.
you're just kind of dipping in your toes and trying to understand what psychedelics are and what they could maybe do or not do for you.
Mhm.
Um, and then the feedback from other people is that it's so nice to be around others who are like-minded. And when you're coming in to, like yourself,
Yeah.
talk about your mushroom trip, they're not going, oh,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, because I have been getting
frowning,
some.
like, oh, what are you?
Well, I
Or,
have been getting some like sort of, and maybe I'm assigning this to the
mhm.
messages that I've been getting, but it's sort of like, you know, like sort of like, are you on one now? Are you you know?
Exactly. Or
So
questioning your sobriety,
yes,
or, you know,
I might be
influencing.
more sober now than I was before.
Yeah, right? So it's just an open space. We have a really beautiful group space now
Mm-hmm.
at the clinic. And yeah, it's great. We have tea
Mm-hmm. I might have to
and
come
little
for some tea.
snacks. Yeah,
Say
come.
hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
Okay. Thanks so much for
yeah,
coming
you're
today.
welcome. Thank you for
And
having
thanks.
me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm sure you haven't seen the last of this studio. So,
Good.
again, check them out on Facebook, Newer Therapy. You can find them online. And if you have any more questions, get a hold of Carissa. She'll be able to help you out.
Yes.
And that's it for now. Check us out Sunday night. Make sure you check us out live every Sunday night and every Friday morning right here on YouTube. If you're getting something out of this, please click that like button at the bottom of the screen. Share this to Facebook. Get us out into your digital community. Help us out. We're doing